This is an India Today world exclusive. The alleged mastermind of the Augusta chopper scam has spoken for the first time to India Today. Remember, this is the first time that Christian Michel has come on camera. Executive editor Sanjay Brakta with this big exclusive from Dubai.
First, can you elaborate on friendship? Were they friends, Subramaniam Swamy and your father?
I'll tell you what I know. These two men have great intellectual capability. And from what I know of my father and what I see of the Honourable Doctor, they would have got on very well. My father met him many times, and I know that, in government and in opposition, and considered him one of the great intellects of the world, and told everybody so at many dinner parties. That's as much as I know. And
did you see his parliamentary debates and how he thrashed the opposition parties and the very basis of this VVIP chopper deal?
Yeah, I've been in aviation most of my life, so it's easy for me to criticize statements when somebody who's not in this business can do. In his field, he is no doubt the best. In aviation, he has been misled. He made statements about the cabin height. He got that information from the CAG report, which is flawed. I went on the website yesterday morning and printed off Sikorsky's leaflet on their aircraft. The cabin height is 6 feet, which is 1.82388 meters. So it's compliant. The other aircraft competing was the MiL-17, which India has hundreds. We all know the cabin height is 1.8 meters, but I printed it off. And of course, the 101 is 1.8 meters. So the cabin height is totally wrong. You mentioned shoulder-fired missiles, and you need to fly at 6,000 meters. Well, in session, most of the landing places are 2,000 or 3,000 meters high. When you're coming into land, you're only going to be at 3,000 meters because it's 6,000 meters from sea level, not 6,000 meters from whatever piece of ground you're on. So you're never going to be above shoulder-fired missiles. It's impossible when you're in the northeast. So that again was wrong. He said that they didn't fly the 101. They need to check with the company, but they should ask the company. I'm sure the company will prove that they demonstrated a 101. Absolutely certain of it. There were many issues like that. Then he's relying on the...
But they were not... the demonstration was not done in India, but it was done in Italy.
Yes.
Why was that?
Well, I'll tell you why. A helicopter is not an aircraft. You cannot fly a helicopter thousands and thousands of miles. It's extremely expensive, very difficult to do, and takes a lot of time. Both Sikorsky and AW suggested it would be better because we have all the equipment in sight and we'll do a far more expansive trial in their facilities. And it was a recommendation of both companies, and it was agreed by the ministry that this would be a better way of doing it because you have all of the equipment to do the trial there. Much more equipment there to do the trial than you would have in India, for example. So it was perfectly normal. Whereas if you're going to test an aircraft, like say the Rafale, it flew to India, it took 10 hours. Simple. You're talking days and days to get a helicopter there. They fly very slowly.
So you were talking about Mr. Subramaniam Swamy's charges in the parliament. Yeah.
So a very wise and honourable member of the Indian Parliament said all of these documents need to be validated. The budget sheet needs to be validated. The share split needs to be validated. The cabin height needs to be validated. The change in altitude needs to be validated. I have a letter, which I will give to you. 2004, AgustaWestland wrote to the Vajpayee government saying we can achieve 6,000 meters with a minor modification. The Vajpayee government didn't write back because they didn't need 6,000 meters. They decided it needs to be an open tender with more than one aircraft. At 6,000 meters, there's only one aircraft in the world could do it. And that was the French Super Puma from, in those days, Eurocopter. So validation needs to be validated.
So you mean to say that Mr. Subramaniam Swamy lied in Parliament and he has authenticated papers?
Yes, well, he hasn't lied. He's authenticated what he was given in the CAG report. The CAG report was prepared in great hurry as all of this deal was blowing up. And they, again, were not aviation experts. They were bureaucrats asked to put together a document which was way beyond their expertise. So he was misled by his own documentation. And it's an unfortunate situation. But everyone in the aviation industry, when they heard his speech, was shaking their heads.
What about your properties? You were doing business in India. You were frequent visitor to India. When was the last time you went there, and what happens to your properties? And
yes, well, I left quickly because my dear friend Mr. Orsi was arrested. I was shocked and horrified, and came straight back to the UK to meet the chairman of AgustaWestland UK to find out what on earth just happened. Because I couldn't see Mr. Orsi, he was in jail. I couldn't see the chairman of AgustaWestland, he was in jail. So the only person, the next highest ranking person was in UK. So I went to see him to ask what on earth is going on. I was absolutely shocked when that occurred. I mean, we all were. It was all over the news 24/7.
And what happens to Narayan Bahadur? Do you know him?
Yes, I do. That's my driver. He's my dear friend. He's a retainer. I hope and have full intention to keep him with me for the rest of my life.
So the Enforcement Directorate found out that he's still getting wide money, and he used to get money earlier instance.
I've got to look after him. He's been with me for years and years. I hope to have him here in Dubai one day. He's my driver and my good friend, and I will not desert him.
Was that money for him or to be distributed to others?
Of course it's for him. It's for him. He's got to live, poor chap. What's he going to do? He tried to set up a kitchen, it didn't work. I'm going to have to bring him to Dubai and look after him. His children know my children. You know how it is with retainers. They're loyal, they're really decent people, and I shall not leave him.
Who are the leaders in India you know? Knowing means you have met.
Yeah. You know, and I try and stick to it. I try and avoid meeting leaders because my expertise is implementation, and I'm very well paid for doing it, and I think I'm quite good at it. That sort of business, if I can avoid, I do. So under the last 10 years of Congress government, there was no point. They weren't interfering in business. They were letting business go forward. Certainly in the areas where I worked, there was no interference, so no need for meetings. And I seriously believe the Modi government is the same honourable government that doesn't interfere in decision-making processes. So there was no need to meet these people.
Have you ever met Sonia Gandhi?
No, never.
A.K. Antony?
No.
Dr. Manmohan Singh?
No.
Any of other leaders?
No. All of the leaders.
SP Tyagi?
No. Oh, which Tyagi?
SP Tyagi, the air chief.
Air chief? I probably met him in the Gymkhana Club. I think I shook his hand there.
So what was the talk about?
Well, that was it. I mean, you know, because of his association with Haschke, I really avoided.
You have a lot of anger against Haschke. What is the
I
reason?
do actually, yes. Well, because I discovered my restaurant in Italy, which comes as quite a shock. If you suddenly have your lawyer fly to you, panicking, and delivers you a 100-page document, and you see the basis of the document are forged letters and lies, you take it personally.
I've got breaking news coming in now. We are being told that senior officers from the Central Bureau of Investigation, the Enforcement Directorate and the Intelligence Bureau have been listening very carefully to every word that Christian Michel has been uttering in this World Exclusive with India Today, and we're told that there have been some fallouts of that interview as well. Based on what Christian Michel has said, now Gautam Khaitan has been called in for questioning again. He's the lawyer who Christian Michel says set up the architecture which created the firms that powered this scam, as it were. His questioning wasn't scheduled today, but there are certain things that Christian Michel has said in this interview which have led him being called in again. Gautam Khaitan being called in. Atir Khan has more details. What specifically does the Enforcement Directorate and the CBI want to ask Gautam Khaitan on the back of what Christian Michel has told India Today?
Well, it's totally unexpected, Rahul. Gautam Khaitan was not supposed to be questioned today. Today was the day of questioning of Pratap Agarwal and Praveen Bakshi. That's what we had been told officially yesterday by the CBI. But all of a sudden, he's been called in, and this has happened after Christian Michel's interview was aired. It appears they have watched the interview very closely, and he said some very crucial things about Gautam Khaitan. So far, Gautam Khaitan has been evasive during the questioning, but there are certain leads which perhaps Christian Michel has given to CBI, regarding maybe Tunisia or Mauritius, the companies which were being operated there. And in a sudden move, the CBI has summoned in, and a little while ago, just a few minutes ago, we have seen him go inside the CBI headquarters where I am at the moment, Rahul. So this is a major development which has happened, and you know, he had been arrested by the enforcement directorate earlier, Gautam Khaitan, but this move could have far-reaching consequences in the investigation which is being looked afresh.
So just tell me specifically, because you've also been listening to this interview that's being playing out, and I want to bring in Sanjay Brakta, my colleague, our executive editor who's done this interview in Dubai. What specifically does Christian Michel say about his relationship with Gautam Khaitan and Gautam Khaitan's involvement in setting up the shell companies through which the money was routed? Sanjay, could you take our viewers through what you found out?
Rahul, he himself, Christian is disassociating himself from Gerosa and Haschke. What he's saying is that Gerosa and Haschke, they were into some fishy deals, and they, through Gautam Khaitan, set up some firms in tax havens in Panama, and they routed the money through these companies to Mauritius. That bigger chunk and larger chunk of that money lies with Gautam Khaitan, and that is in Mauritius. If it is in Mauritius, or has it been pumped into Italy back, or has it been given to the people who were instrumental in cracking this deal? That has to be found out by the investigative agencies. He himself is very keen, as Michel told us in this interview, that he wanted to know where this money went.
Okay, so that's interesting, and I want Gaurav to build on that, because what we're seeing in this interview, Christian Michel attempt to do is pass the blame onto Gerosa and on Haschke, saying Haschke is the dubious character. It's Gautam Khaitan who set up the architecture of these shell companies. But very interesting, Gaurav, that the CBI, in an unexpected move, calling in Gautam Khaitan for questioning, based, we are told very clearly, on what Christian Michel has revealed to India Today, details that they say they didn't have so far, because no one, absolutely no one, had heard what Christian Michel himself had to say about all that's been reported in the media, being debated in Parliament over the past few days.
Spot on there, Rahul. So he's corroborating what intelligence agencies know as far as Haschke, Gerosa and Gautam Khaitan are concerned. They set up shell companies. Money was routed to India through these shell companies, sometimes for jobs that had already been completed. The CAG has pointed that out already. So far, it's clear. What is unclear is what was Christian Michel being paid for? What was all the money being paid to him for? Was it only logistics? Why would so much money be paid only for handling logistics? That is something that he needs to explain, and that is why the agencies want to question him. Where was that part of the money being routed? So there are two channels. The companies paying money to Haschke and Gerosa, also apparently to Gautam Khaitan, and the company AgustaWestland has also paid money to Christian Michel. What was he being paid for? Where was that money being funneled? That is still not clear, because according to Christian Michel in this interview to Sanjay Brakta, he's very clearly saying that that money was being routed back to Italy. The money that was coming to Gerosa and to Haschke, and was politicians in Italy were being paid, or officials of Finmechanic and AgustaWestland were being paid in Italy, not in India. That sounds rather curious and needs more investigation, Rahul.
No, but that is very clear, because Gaurav, you naturally will not expect anybody speaking on television to admit his crime. He's not going to accept that he was taking any money. He's also working very hard to give both the Congress and the BJP a clean chit. He's saying, no, the Modi government didn't strike a deal with the Italians. He's also saying, no, I don't know any of the Gandhis. I've never met them. He's calling him Saint Antony, the former defense minister, A.K. Antony, being referred to as Saint. So here's a man who very clearly follows Indian politics very, very closely. No wonder he was involved in these deals. But in this, he's strategically setting himself up in a way that he's giving a clean chit to politicians, trying to possibly deflect the heat from him.
Spot on there, Rahul. That's exactly what he appears to be doing, is deflecting the pressure from himself and the politicians. And in one answer, he admits it, that when I say that I don't know whether Sonia Gandhi, or I have never met A.K. Antony or Prime Minister Manmohan Singh, in that response to Sanjay Brakta, he's also saying, in a way, I'm protecting myself, because that is the allegation. And that is where he says Indian investigators are going wrong. This is his claim in this story, that investigators are claiming the wrong end. They need to investigate money that went back to Mauritius, money that went into Italy, and that corruption, if at all, was in Finmeccanica with their officials being played.
No, but Gautam, we can't believe that so easily, because that doesn't make sense. I mean, at the end of it, there has to be some logic as well.
Yes.
If there is a defense purchase happening in India and you're trying to change height standards, you're trying to change weapon standards to try and ensure that your weapon system gets in, there has to be corruption here.
Exactly.
Michel cannot be taken at face value when he says that there's no corruption in India. It's the Italian angle, it's Haschke and Gerosa that need to be looked at. Of course, they need to be looked at very carefully. But ultimately, a deal was swung inappropriately in India using unfair means. And that naturally means somebody was paid money in India. Now, we don't know who that person is. We don't know if it is Sonia Gandhi. We don't know if Antony had any role to play in it. Michel is denying it. But the deal was cancelled when reports emerged that there was corruption in the AgustaWestland case. And therefore, even as we air this world exclusive, even as we say that what he's saying is very significant, even as we know that the CBI has called in for questioning Gautam Khaitan based on what Michel is telling us in this interview, we must also tell our viewers that not everything this person is saying can be admitted at face value, because he is one of the prime accused and no accused is going to incriminate himself. I want to go across now to Jugal Purohit. He's joining us from Milan. Jugal, what happens in this case next in Milan? You've tried for multiple days to track down Gerosa, Haschke. You've come very close to succeeding. But what have you gathered so far and what's happening in Italy next?
Well, Rahul, so this is what happens. The lawyers for Giuseppe Orsi and Bruno Spagnolini, who are the top two senior-most officials, former officials of Finmeccanica, who were kicked out of their jobs and have now been handed over a jail term, though they're not in jail technically because their appeal is pending. They've already made their appeal before the Supreme Court of Italy. That hearing is, as of now, not slated. We are waiting to see just when those dates are coming out. So the case is now technically shifted to the Supreme Court, the final frontier, if you will. And that's where, again, these two gentlemen, along with the other accused and witnesses, will be making their case. And, of course, the prosecution will be fighting it out there as well. What is extremely interesting, Rahul, from here on, is just how the entire band has sort of disbanded itself. You're seeing Michel speak against Carlo, Gerosa and Haschke. Not that they were friends ever, but the very fact now is that there is panic which has set in among these players who were once a part of a deal that the investigating agencies have successfully proven before the Court of Appeals here in Milan. Now they're at each other's throats. There's also a lot going on which is below the radar, which basically means there are a lot of informal negotiations which are taking place. There are a lot of lawyers who are into the picture now. They want to sort of get, this case is politically extremely loaded, Rahul, in terms of its significance in Italy here is concerned. I spoke to different lawyers. They're extremely tight-lipped, but what they're telling us is that they somehow are trying to, get inside and represent A, B, or C, any of the parties concerned, because this is a case which gives you a ticket to the high table. And again, I say it's ironic because while that's the kind of level that we're talking about, where you deal with a company which is the second largest employer in Italy, Rahul. After Fiat, if there's anybody who employs more people in Italy, it's Finmeccanica, or as it's now called, Leonardo Finmeccanica. The stakes are very high. The Italian government is involved. 30% plus is its stake in Leonardo Finmeccanica. So it's the level is surreal. It doesn't get any higher than this. And still, we're seeing, while there's a lot of chatter, there are a lot of backroom negotiations that are taking place. There's every chance that friends may turn foes and foes may turn friends. The situation is very, very dynamic right now. And this interview of Michel that Sanjay Brakta, our executive editor, has got is obviously going to set the cat among the pigeons.
Very, very interesting details there from Jugal. We've succeeded in tracking down Michel, doing what no investigative agency has done so far. Now, Jugal, the challenge is for you to hunt down Haschke and Gerosa both, because that is significant. Michel trying to distance himself, blaming Haschke and Gerosa. You're in Milan, tracking these middlemen. Let's see what they have to say. We've been on this story relentlessly for the past 1.5 hours. We're taking a very quick break. My colleague Gautam Khaitan will take over when we come back on the other side. But before that, I want to commend once more the stupendous investigative work done by my colleague Sanjay Barakta, our producer Ankit Kumar, who went down to the United Arab Emirates, struggled for many hours trying to track down this very elusive character. For 4 years, all of India's top investigative agencies have been unable to hunt him down, and India today has done what none of them succeeded in doing. So hats off, Sanjay, well done. We will keep getting you.